Asia in the New Economic Order is the theme for the Asian Financial Forum 2010 in Hong Kong. And the steering committee chairman is Peter Wong. Peter is also the executive director of HSBC. And thanks very much indeed for joining us today, Peter. Really looking at what's been happening in the banking industry over the last year. We've had the credit crunch, but what would you see as being the way in which the banks have handled all of this in the past and now looking forward?
After the financial tsunami, I think the banking industry has lost quite a bit of trust among the public. And you can see that the governments around the world are instituting new regulation so that the bank would go on a new order. So I think this is the right thing to do. We cannot go back to the way it was. We cannot just sell products without allowing the customers to understand the product features, and also how we have to make sure that the product is going to be transparent. So I think going into the future, what we need to do is to make sure to the customers that the products are transparent and also simple to understand. And I think that it is important for the banking industries to continue this way to regain the trust of the customers.
But bankers, of course, have had their problems with customers where it comes to providing loans and looking at it from that point of view. So would you think that banks are much more abstemious? They're much more worried about the sort of loans that they're likely to provide?
I think that as far as the banks are concerned, the banks are granting credit basically based on the financial situation and the economic situation of the market. If the economic situation is good, then I think that the banks are willing to continue to lend to the customers. So I think that it is not because of the financial tsunami that the banks will continue to have a credit crunch. The bank had a credit crunch only because during the tsunami, suddenly there was a liquidity crunch. But right now, I think the banks are willing to lend, especially when we look into the future to 2010 and 2011. The economies will probably going to get better. So I think the banks will continue to lend.
The Hong Kong banking industry has had its problems, such as with the Lehman Brothers mini-bonds. But how has it performed overall, would you say?
As far as Hong Kong is concerned, it has its problems after the financial tsunami, like you mentioned, the Lehman Brothers issue. But I think as far as the economy is concerned, it's doing pretty well because the unemployment rate is only at about 5.2%. And during the last 2 quarters, actually, the economy is coming back up. So according to the Global Financial Index in London, Hong Kong is basically, the position has come up quite a bit in the Global Financial Index, edging out Singapore. And also, in the index, has also indicated that Hong Kong and Singapore are quite important financial centers. In the past, it's sort of like a distant third and fourth from New York and London, but now it's getting very close. And it's also indicated that Hong Kong is being indicated as one of the more important financial centers going forward.
And Hong Kong could, I suppose, be the beneficiary of bankers from New York and perhaps from London, from other centers.
Well, I would probably say that Hong Kong has benefited because of the growth of China. And there are lots more IPOs from China coming to Hong Kong. So you will see a lot more bankers coming in from the UK, the US, and also Europe to come to Hong Kong to capitalize on these opportunities.
Of course, HSBC has moved one of its top executives from London here to Hong Kong. How has that repositioned the bank globally?
If we look at the world, if we look at emerging markets, and we look at South America, we look at Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific, Asia Pacific will probably have the strongest growth in the next 10 years, especially with the growth of China and India. So I think that with the group CEO moving out to Asia Pacific, it's the right move. And it will help HSBC to grow the business in Asia Pacific and look for more opportunities.
As chairman of the steering committee for the Asian Financial Forum 2010, what are your expectations for the forum?
Well, I have very, very high expectations this year because we see a lot of heavyweights coming down from China to speak at the forum this time. We have Professor Rubini from the US coming. And we have vice ministers from Japan, Vietnam, Russia, and Taipei, and many other countries coming to speak this time. It's just again emphasizes on the importance of Asia Pacific.
Finally, a question for you, I think, come the end of 2009 and looking forward to 2010, what are your expectations for the year?
As far as 2010 is concerned, I think that it is not going to be an easy year. I'll probably say it's going to be a transition year. Because in 2010, the U.S. economy is still not certain, and therefore the interest rate will continue to be low. And therefore, there will be huge liquidity coming out at a very low interest rate. And this will present maybe a risk of having too much liquidity and therefore asset bubbles. So we have to watch out for that. So if we can pass the 2010 and go into 2011, and at 2011, we see that the U.S. economy will be much better. Interest rate will come back up a bit, so the earnings for the banks will be much better. And also, the export and the import of various countries will also be better. So I think that the 2010 is not going to be easy, but 2011 will be pretty good.
Peter, thanks very much indeed. Peter is the chairman of the Standing Committee for the Asian Financial Forum 2010.